But you have been given a body that is perfect for your mission. The moment you realize that and have gratitude for that is the moment your body takes you to new heights. I love myself. I love myself. And I watched so many people had difficulty loving themselves. And then it was my time to get up.
Don't ever underestimate the power you have within your mind and your heart, because never underestimate the significance of one individual or group of individuals for changing the world.
Is greater than mine in receiving this torch. For though you may destroy my mortal body, you can never destroy my immortal soul and message.
Well, everyone is thinking about something, and most of us are thinking kind of unconsciously. We're not really paying attention to our thoughts. And as a result of our thoughts are influencing what we see in the world, how we act in the world, and our decisions. Our thoughts actually emerge because of our value system, and they influence the direction at which we think and act. So the law of attraction is basically that whatever we consciously concentrate our thoughts on, we increase the probability of seeing in our environment things that can support it and taking actions on our environment that assist it. And we start to become synchronous with those and start to bring into our life, because of those, the reality of what it is that we think about. Yes, thinking consciously and become present with all the opportunities that are around us that we don't normally see. By taking consciously effort to focus on what we really love, then what happens is we start to see all the things that can help us fulfill that. And we tend to take actions on those. If we don't think about it, we're just reacting as automatons to our environment instead of taking command of our awareness and our actions. I mean, I first became aware of my own thinking process when I turned 17. And I was inspired by a great teacher named Paul Bragg. And he set me out on a journey of possibilities. And I started exploring, from reading to meditating to fasting to exploring the mind and the universe. And I think little by little pieces of the puzzle of the universe started to fall together. And I think I became more and more present, because the more I explored the universe, the more humble I was to this magnificent order that's sitting there. Even though we think we have chaos, there is a hidden order to it. And the more I became aware of it, the more grateful I was, the more loving I felt it was, the more present in the universe I was, the more certain about the laws. So I think it was an ongoing emergence more so than just one event.
At 5:45 in the morning, the next morning, I hitchhiked to where he was teaching. And there, with about 15, 20 people, he lectured. And he taught me more details about the secret. He taught me the power of our mind, about thoughts, about vision, about how we talk to ourselves, how we feel about ourselves, our actions. He told us to set goals for ourselves, our family,
our community, our city, our state, our nation, and the world and beyond. He said to set those goals for at least 100 to 120 years. I want you to think about this for just a second. Most of us think as mortals. We think in terms of our body's age. We don't think beyond our life. The Roman poet and politician, Seneca, he said, you measure an individual by their most distant ends, which means how big a vision do they have in space and in time. Some people think small, and they live moment to moment, hour to hour. Some people think a little bigger, day to day, week to week. Some think in terms of month and years. Some decades and generations. And others centuries, millenniums, or eternity. You create at whatever level you give yourself permission to. The magnitude of space and time within your innermost dominant thought determines the level of your impact across the world. If you want to make a difference in yourself and get beyond yourself, you require a vision at least as big as your family. If you want to make a difference in your family, you must have a vision and a calling at least as big as your community. If you want to make an impact in your community, you must have a vision and a calling as big as your city. If you want to have an impact on a city and be number one in the city, you have to have a vision and a calling as big as the state. If you want to make an influence in the state, you have to have a vision and calling as big as the nation. If you want to be a leader in the nation, you have to have a vision and calling as big as the globe. But if you're like me and you desire to create a global mission, you have to have an astronomical vision and calling.
Well, I like to think of it as that I can't say that I live in peace. I think that would be a distortion. I have moments of inner peace and I have moments of turmoil, and I'm a human being with both of those. But I've gotten to explore the infinite micro domains of the subatomic worlds and the quantum world, and the infinite, large domains, the maximum domains of the universe and cosmology, and then the inner exploration of our mind, which actually encompasses both. And so I guess it's an ongoing journey, and we're learning things through telescopes and learning things through microscopes and every day, and particle accelerators. So the more we explore the macro and micro worlds, the more we come to know ourselves. So I don't think there's a never ending. I think anybody who thinks that they have full awareness while sitting on this little planet, if we go to the sun looking at this little planet, which is only 8,000 miles in diameter, we can't even be seen. And if we go to the center of the galaxy, our solar system's not seen. So when we think of, the many millions of galaxies that are in just a local universe, our awareness is not full, it's growing. It's a seedling in the universe. So I feel that keeps me humble and keeps me on the growth and exploring new mysteries and finding the living order in those mysteries. But it's wise to be humble. The second we think we've got it, we find out the infinite, we've stumbled upon a block in our life instead of keeping it as a stepping stone.
I share a story. "7 years ago, I was in Rome,
presenting a program that I do called the Breakthrough Experience. It's on a Saturday and Sunday. On Monday, I didn't have to leave until the evening, so I decided to spend the day touring through Rome, the city. I had a lady who could speak some Italian with me, and we toured the city. We came upon a square that was roped off, the size of a football field. The entire square was covered in red rose petals. In the center of the square was a statue. I asked people, why is it roped off? What's the specialness of the square? And they say they are honoring Giordano Bruno on this day. And I said, what is the occasion? They said 400 years ago, he was burned at the stake for saying things and believing things that were not accepted. But today, 400 years later, from the day he was killed, he's being honored as a genius 400 years ahead of his times. He believed that we lived in an infinite universe with infinite worlds, with infinite beings, and that the earth revolved around the sun, like his contemporary, Copernicus and Galileo. At the time, the church and the state believed in Aristotle and Ptolemy and did not believe such a thing. So they decided to burn him at the stake for being a heretic. As he was standing on the pyre, about to be burned, they asked him if he would like to say something before he was torched. He said yes. They sent a runner to the front with a scroll that if he repeated and recanted, it would save his life. He said, no, this is not necessary, but I do have something to say. And he turned and looked at the torchbearers who were holding the torches that were about to light him. And he leaned down to one of them and he said, I'll bet that your fear in lighting this torch is greater than mine in receiving this torch. For though you may destroy my mortal body, you can never destroy my immortal soul and message.
I always say if you have to ask the question, it's tainted by some emotional perception of the past or future, some memories of the past that are delusional, or some infatuations or imaginations of the future. When you're really present and you have certainty and you feel gratitude and love for that which you are in thinking about, then you know, and there's no question.
I'm going to answer two questions. Everybody has a hierarchy of values. If you have a person that has a high value on success and wealth, and you have a person that has success and wealth in the center, and you have another person that has wealth at the bottom, if you associate with this person, they will call you greedy. They will call you expensive. If you associate with this person, they will call you cheap and think you're too generous. If this person hangs out with this person will think that they're very greedy. This person will think they're very cheap and generous.